Hash the girl who stopped smiling. I was already old the first time I saw Nora. She was only 16, but her eyes carried the weight of someone who had lived 3 lifetimes of hurt. Something in her chest had gone cold, like a door that had been slammed shut too many times to ever open again. Everyone in our small town was afraid of her. She never laughed. She snapped at anyone who came too close. The neighbors called her difficult, damaged, even heartless. But I never believed that. I believed something had broken her, and broken things don't choose to be broken. One evening I found her crying under the old oak tree by the creek. The moment she noticed me, she wiped her face fast and hard, like she was ashamed of her own tears. "Don't look at me," she said. Her words came out sharp, but her hands were shaking. I didn't leave. I sat down on the bench a few feet away and said nothing at all. Sometimes silence speaks louder than comfort ever could. After that day, I started walking to that same creek every evening. Some days she was there, some days she wasn't, but when she was, sadness followed her like a shadow. Then one afternoon, a boy named Eli wandered over and sat near her. He was soft-spoken, gentle in a way that seemed almost out of place in our rough little town. He smiled at her. She didn't smile back, but she didn't get up and walk away either. He stayed quiet. She stayed quiet too. And then something small and unexpected happened. Nora laughed. It was short, and it was fragile, but it was real. That was the moment something inside her cracked open, just a little. Eli didn't know her story. He'd never heard the whispers that followed her through town. He only saw her just Nora, nothing more, nothing less. He started showing up with books, sitting beside her, reading out loud even when she refused to look his way. She stayed anyway, and that meant something. Slowly, she began listening. The ice behind her eyes started to thaw, just barely. One day he handed her a paperback. "Keep it," he said. She held it like it might disappear if she moved wrong. "Why?" she asked. "Because I think you'll love it," he answered. She whispered, "Thank you." It was barely a sound, but it was the first real thing she'd said to anyone in a long time. They began walking home together after that, most days in silence, just 2 people moving through the world side by side. That walk became the one place Nora felt safe. Her smile started to show, faint at first, like the sun breaking through after weeks of storm clouds. People in town noticed. "Is that really her?" they murmured. She seemed lighter somehow, calmer. Eli never asked about her pain. He never pushed her to explain herself. He simply stayed, and little by little, she began to trust that he would keep staying. She'd been caught in a storm for years, and in him, she'd finally found shelter. I watched it all unfold from my bench, quietly, the way old people watch the young rebuild themselves. Nora started helping her mother more around the house. She smiled at the shopkeeper. She even waved at her old teacher. Everyone whispered the same question, is this really the same girl? But only Eli understood what was shifting beneath the surface. One evening she told him, "I used to be angry all the time. I didn't like people. I didn't even like myself." He didn't flinch. "I know," he said softly, "but you're not that girl anymore." She looked away. "Sometimes I still feel broken," she whispered. He nodded. "That's okay. Broken things can still be beautiful." And for the first time, she believed it. The next day, the rain came down hard. Most people stayed indoors, but Nora walked to the creek anyway and sat on the wet bench, waiting. Her hair was soaked, her fingers numb with cold, but she smiled the second she saw Eli running toward her with an umbrella. "You came," she said. "Of course I did," he answered. That day she finally told him about her father who'd walked out when she was 11. She cried. She told him how her mother worked endless hours just to keep them afloat, how she'd been forced to grow up before she was ready. "I thought being strong meant being angry," she said. "Now I know that's not true." Eli didn't say much. He just held her hand, no advice, no fixing, just quiet understanding. That was enough. She didn't pull away. She let herself feel safe, and for the first time in years, she felt weightless, like a heavy pack had finally been lifted off her shoulders. From my bench, I watched 2 young hearts find peace in a world that rarely offers any. Nora had changed. Her anger no longer wrapped around her like armor. Eli hadn't rescued her. He had simply stood beside her while she rescued herself. That kind of love, patient and quiet and unhurried, turned out to be the strongest kind there is. She began speaking up more at school. She smiled at classmates. She helped a boy carry a stack of books without being asked. One day, a younger girl dropped her notebook in the hallway, and Nora picked it up and handed it back with a gentle "You're welcome" when the girl thanked her. It was such a small moment, but for Nora it felt enormous. At home, her mother noticed too. "You're different now," she said. Nora smiled. "I feel different." They cooked dinner together that night, laughing while they washed the dishes, and Nora realized she hadn't heard her mother laugh like that in years. It warmed something deep inside her. The storm hadn't disappeared completely, but it had softened, and Eli was always there, patient, steady, smiling. Nora and Eli kept meeting by the creek. They talked about books, about music, about the futures they imagined for themselves. "I don't feel angry every single day anymore," she told him once. He smiled. "You've come a long way." She felt grateful, though some days still hurt more than others. On those days she went quiet instead of breaking things or lashing out. She simply breathed and waited for the storm inside her to pass. She was learning that bad days don't last forever. From my bench, I watched her grow stronger, not just healing, but blooming. Her once frozen heart had turned warm, steady, and full of quiet courage. Nora wanted to give more back. She started volunteering at the local library after school, shelving books and reading stories to the little kids who came in. One small boy once told her, "You're nice." She smiled. "Thank you." That simple sentence stayed with her the whole day. At home, she made dinner for her tired mother, and her mother told her, "I'm proud of you." Nora looked down, shy but glowing. She'd never heard those words before, and they landed on her like sunlight. That weekend, Nora and Eli joined a community group cleaning up the creek. They picked up litter and planted wildflowers together, their hands dirty but their hearts light. A few of Nora's old classmates spotted her kneeling in the dirt, planting flowers, and whispered again, "Is that really her?" But this time, Nora heard them, and she smiled instead of flinching. The anger was gone now. She was learning to forgive, to move forward. She still visited the old oak tree sometimes, the same one where she used to cry alone. Sometimes she sat there in silence. Sometimes Eli sat beside her. She remembered her past, the pain, the silence, but now she also saw the light, the smiles, the soft conversations, the calm that had settled inside her. Life was still hard sometimes, but it no longer felt heavy. Her anger had melted into peace. Years passed. Nora finished school and took a job at a small bookstore downtown. She smiled at every customer who walked through the door. On weekends, she read stories to children, her voice soft, their eyes wide with wonder. She and Eli stayed close through it all. He became a teacher. Nora began writing her own book, and she called it The Frozen Heart That Learned to Melt Asterisk. One quiet afternoon, she walked back to the creek and stood beneath that same old oak tree. The wind stirred the leaves above her. She touched the bark and whispered, "Thank you." That tree had once held her pain. Now it held the memory of where her healing had begun. Today, Nora is happy. Her heart is warm, and she spends her life helping others. She smiles freely now. Her past is still part of who she is, but it no longer controls her. She learned that being strong was never about anger. It was about staying kind even when life gets hard. And it all began with one gentle boy who didn't run away, who simply sat down beside her and started reading. I still sit on that same bench by the creek sometimes. I watch the young people pass by, and I smile, because I know that even the coldest heart can learn to melt. Sometimes all it takes is one person who cares enough to stay.